And I wanted you here because I am particularly interested in how you see humankind evolving and where we are at this point in history. Okay.
Good.
In terms of where we're going. But before we get there, let's first find out more about you,
Sure.
how you grew up and how you got interested in all of this. And particularly, why are you interested in race as a
Mhm.
white woman? Okay. So tell about your childhood.
So my earliest memories of a place that I lived were in New York in an all-white neighborhood of very tiny houses. We're talking like 2 and 3 bedroom homes with one bathroom. But it was the first home my parents ever bought, and they were so proud of it. And they bought their very first, not very great, but doable car at that time. And
The
their
American
very,
dream.
yep, and they bought their very first piece of new furniture, which was a coffee table. And my mother, to this day, still talks about the pride she had on the day when she could buy a piece of new furniture.
Wow.
So, yeah, so that's my first memory of a home. And I had no understanding at that time of race, none. Everybody I went to school with looked like me, and that's all I knew. So we grew up there I was there for a couple of years, and then they moved to Connecticut and to a little bit larger home, 3 bedrooms, couple of bathrooms. And we lived there for a little while before we got assigned to India. And my dad was in the oil industry. So we were transferred to India when I was about 6 years old. And that was my first real experience of difference, because I had been in one white neighborhood and then another white neighborhood and really had not seen people of color, or really many people other than this little tiny niche of kind of lower middle class to middle class at that time. So to my knowledge, that's what the world looked like. We get on an airplane and we take off, and by the time we land in India, it is a drastically different world. We have gone from being middle class to being upper class in the course of a jet flight.
Wow.
Yes, and we're living in an expatriate condo tower, which is full of Americans and British expatriates. And there is really no choice but to have servants. That is the norm there. And my mother resisted it, but she was really told it was a horrible thing to do to not employ people in that country, that she needed to employ people. But not only did she need to employ people, she needed to have people that fit their caste job distinctions, which became a very interesting thing that we were just revisiting recently. She hired a nanny because I had an infant brother, and then there was myself and my sister. And she was Roman Catholic. She was Indian, but she was Roman Catholic. So she did not ascribe to the Hindu caste system. But
the nanny you're talking about.
The nanny did not. But most of the other members of the household staff, we had like a cook and a driver, and like each person only did one job. And this is part of the mindset of the whole caste system. It's like there's a job and you do your job, nobody else's job. And we had an untouchable who worked periodically, would come in to do the untouchable work. And the concept of an untouchable blew my mind as a child. It just felt so unfair. The untouchable would come in to do the dirtiest work in the house, which included cleaning the toilets and mopping the floors. We were not allowed to make eye contact or in any way converse with this person. And the logic for it, as it was explained to me, had to do with the belief in reincarnation, that if we tempted a person out of their station and they behaved outside their station, we were potentially damning them to a worse reincarnation, that they needed to live within their caste committed job and family and duties and obligations and behavioral expectations. They needed to defer to the people they needed to defer to. And if they did that all well, their next life, they would go up a caste and then up a caste and then up a caste. So to get to the Brahmin caste, which was the top, you had to have had many, many incarnations as insects and animals and God knows what to work your way up to being a Brahmin. And this was so profoundly embedded that my mother was kind of laughing at the memory of the day the laundry machine overflowed with water. And none of the men in the household would help mop it up because the untouchable was not there. And that was an untouchable's job. So the nanny, who was Catholic and didn't care about the Hindu caste tradition, and my mother had to mop up the water overflow because none of the others would break caste, because
Oh,
it had
wow.
spiritual, religious reincarnation implications for them and their families. And it's just a wild, different set of realities. The other drastic change for me was seeing the poverty. I had never experienced much social difference of any kind, but to see that we lived in this nice condo tower and we'd go out anywhere. We were not allowed to drive ourselves. There had to be a driver. The driver would take us somewhere, and my mother said it was in an old Pontiac. It was not a fancy car, but it was a car. And the car would be swarmed by beggars at every traffic signal, people asking for money. Leprosy had not been cured, so many of these people were lepers, were missing hands, or had horrible disfigurations. And so as a child, none of this made sense to me. Why there was such desperate poverty, why people couldn't get medical help. So I would say in a way that probably set a foundation for my social justice concerns without me having the language to explain any of that.
Well, I guess so. And I'm sitting here, the book cast is now very popular. And so you basically lived what's in the book.
I did, with a 6-year-old's understanding of it, which is just that this is not right, but I don't know how to fix it. And numbers in India are overwhelming. How do you fix a social justice system, first of all, where most of the people believe that the social justice system is the way it's meant to be because the gods have deemed it so? And, secondly, just the sheer size of the problem. The poverty is so vast, how on earth do you deal with that? So, yes, injustice in the world at the same time that I was being raised Roman Catholic, and a belief in a loving God was just kind of messing with my head.
Well, so you never said, oh, well, this is the way it is, and accepted it. It was always something's not right here.
It always felt like something was not right here.